Yep, it's Perp back with another video, and I just got done checking out The Sadness. This just dropped on Shudder. This actually came out last year. I only think they played it at certain festivals, if I'm not mistaken. But I see why this didn't get a major release, because this is kind of touted as the most violent and depraved zombie movie ever. I literally just read that off the poster. And man, does that live up to the title? Because this movie definitely doesn't hold any punches. It's violent, it's bloody. But what I can really appreciate it for is just the fact that it's all practical. There's nothing like no fake blood. Well, there's, you could say there's some kind of digital stuff, but it's very minimal. And I can really appreciate that. Not many horror movies really go that far as to, you know, let's see how much bucket of blood that we could use in this movie. And they have tons and tons of just blood in this movie. It is very, very graphic. If you're a type of person that, you don't like a lot of extra stuff in your horror movies, like you see people getting like really hurt or tortured or something like that, like some Saw, this movie makes those movies look like Saturday morning cartoons. I'm being honest with you. This movie is extremely graphic. But the main story, there's not much story in this movie. I can see that being an issue with some people, but there are some interesting messages, you know what I'm saying, as far as dealing with society, dealing with humanity. Um, there's this interesting scene with this old man and one of our main characters, Kat, and they're just sitting there having a conversation. Well, he's trying to have a conversation with her on the train, and he's just looking at him like a creep. And he's like, damn, we can never have just a civil conversation with other human beings now, because everybody's so attached to their phones. Nobody really cares about just having actual human interactions, which is really true. And I like this movie for that. They really go in depth with that when they do, when the movie kind of slows down. Once you get past like the very first 15 minutes, that's where just everything is just insane. Blood, guts, torture. There's just some things that I was not prepared for. There's some really, like I said, there's some sexual things that happen in this that, if that's not your cup of tea, and if that kind of is kind of a deal breaker for you, I could see a lot of people just not finishing this movie just based on that. Even though it's not like too crazy, there is like one scene that's like a blood orgy. That shit is just wild. It's just, man, I just don't know what I just watched. But I like the way that this is shot. There are some really unique camera angles and just cinematography throughout. It's very low budget, but still doesn't feel cheap. Like, with it having practical effects, I feel like it's very effective. Um, so pretty much, like, the whole movie is kind of, if you could think of like 28 days or 28 weeks later meets the Crazies turned up to 10. And it starts off just like any other infection movie or a zombie movie. Like, it's just this breakout in this small area. Then it just kind of becomes widespread. But the way that they get infected is interesting. And the way that these infected act are really crazy, because they're like they're very primal. They're not dumb though. They'll go as far as to just follow you. Like, you could just run away from one of them and they'll just be like, they'll have a full conversation with you, and they'll say the most messed up things to you, say I'll do this and that to you while you're dead body. Like, it's crazy. And you'll have certain infected people just follow them like later on in the movie. It's really dope how it's how they set that up. And yeah, I can always appreciate a horror movie with a dark ending. This definitely has a very sad ending. I could see it being kind of anticlimactic for some, because our main characters, Jim and Kat, they don't get that much development. But I do kind of like how they tease any of these characters can go at any time. The stakes are really high. There are some weird stuff. Like, I feel like this movie is a little too over the top at times, but it doesn't sacrifice. It still kind of has a message if you can stomach the whole hour and 40 minutes, which is the runtime of this movie. They don't really waste any time. It's pretty well paced. Like I said, like, it's action all the way through. When it slows down, it's still pretty interesting. The kills in this are fucking insane. Like, the very first kill that we get in this movie, I feel like really sets the tone on what to expect, but not really. So yeah, definitely let me know how you feel about this movie, if you checked it out already, or if you plan on doing it. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will check y'all out in my next review. Peace.